Okay. בואו נתחיל. Guys, please take your places. Shalom everyone. Thank you all for coming. My name is Lior Hayat. I'm the spokesperson of the Israeli Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the spokesperson of the Israeli delegation to the HAGUE this week. This press conference will have three parts. The first one will be a political statement, a reaction to what happened today at the court. And then we'll hear from the representatives of the families of the Israeli hostages that are in the Gaza Strip. And the third part will be a short part of a Q&A. I'll start by reading the Israeli response to the South African presentation. Today we were witness to one of the greatest shows of hypocrisy in history, compounded by a series of false and baseless claims. South Africa, which is functioning as the legal arm of the Hamas terror organization, utterly distorted the reality in Gaza following the October 7 massacre, and completely ignored the fact that Hamas terrorists infiltrated Israel, murdered, executed, massacred, raped, and abducted Israeli citizens simply because they were Israelis, in an attempt to carry out genocide. South Africa seeks to allow Hamas to return to commit the war crimes, crimes against humanity, and the sexual crimes that they committed repeatedly on October 7, as Hamas leaders have stated. Hamas representatives in the court, the South African lawyers, are also ignoring the fact that Hamas uses civilian population in Gaza as human shields and operating from within hospitals, schools, UN shelters, mosques, and churches, with the intention of endangering the lives of residents in the Gaza Strip. 136 hostages are still held in Hamas captivity, denied access to the Red Cross representatives and medical care. The State of Israel will continue to protect its citizens in accordance with the international law, while distinguishing between Hamas terrorists and the civilian population, and will do anything in its power to release all hostages and eliminate Hamas terrorist organization, a racist and anti-Semitic terrorist organization that calls on the destruction of the State of Israel and the murder of Jews. This concludes the Israeli statement, and now I invite Michael Or to tell his story.
Hello everyone, I'm Michael, Or Levy's brother. My little brother Or always knew how to enjoy life. He and his wife, Einav, lived the new Israeli dream. Or is a genius computer engineer, and Einav was working for a huge global company. They also loved traveling, partying, and meeting friends. Even after Almog was born, they still managed to combine amazing parenting with fun experiences. 97 days ago, they decided to skip the beginning of the festival in order to spend another night with Almog. Only on the morning of October 7, they left him with his grandparents and headed south to celebrate peace and love in the Nova Festival. They got there at 6:20 a.m., straight to hell. Imagine yourself arriving to a party you've been waiting for, only to realize you have to run away. Oren and Einav turned around and headed back, but the missiles kept flying over their heads, and they had to run into a bomb shelter. For a second, they thought they were safe. From inside, Or called my mother. His last sentence was, "Mom, you don't want to know what's going on here." That was the last thing we had from him. 10 minutes after that call, the monsters came to the shelter, and the safe place became a death trap. The terrorists threw grenades into it and sprayed it with bullets. Einav was murdered. She was only 32 years old. My little brother Or had to witness his wife being murdered in front of him before he was kidnapped into Gaza. That morning, we realized that 2-year-old Almog was left without a mother. And I knew I had one mission in life: to bring little Almog his father back. I promised my parents I would bring him back, even if it means turning the world upside down. It's been 97 days since Almog got a hug from his mom and dad. We can't bring his mother back, but his father is still alive. Or in Hebrew means light. We need to get our life back, and we need to do it now.
Thank you, Michael. We move on to Yuval Lanson.
Hello, I'm Yuval, Alex Danzig's son, and Itzik Elgarat nephew. They are both kidnapped from Kibbutz Nir Oz on the 7th of October, along with 1/4 of the community that were kidnapped or killed, more than 30 killed and more than 70 kidnapped. My father is 75. He has a heart disease and a kidney disease. He needs to get medication on a daily basis. We know that he didn't get his medication for 60 days because now with more than 1 month we don't know nothing about him. We don't know if he's still alive. We don't know what his mental situation. My uncle got shot while he was kidnapped. He shot on the phone, "It's the end, it's the end," when we don't know nothing about it. And I'm here in HAGUE and I'm asking myself, why we need to protect this situation of kidnaps here. And in Kibbutz Nir Oz, many of the war crimes committed there, rapes, killings, and even kidnaps by civilians. Civilians that now in the humanitarian corridor, many of them. My father and my uncle didn't get any humanitarian corridor. Anything. We didn't even know if they're alive. They didn't get the Red Cross, and nobody visited them. So, for them and for all the others, every day can be the last day. My father can't live anymore in captivity. I know that every day and every hour can be his last. So I'm calling all the world and all people that are human to release them first. That's the most important thing for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Val. I call on Alina Borowinsky.
Hello, I'm Alina. I live in Netherlands and we have a family in Israel. Yogev Buchstab and his wife Ramon has been kidnapped on 7th of October. It's a beautiful family, couple who lives in kibbutz Nirim. Very peaceful people, musicians who care about everyone, has passionate to every human and animals. They rescued animals and kept them in their house. They also helped people from Gaza, volunteered to take them from the Gaza Strip after they passed the border to the hospitals, sick people. So it just shows how passionate they have been to everyone. On the 7th of October, they were just brutally kidnapped from their houses, barefoot, in pajamas, taken to the Gaza Strip. But their love is so strong that they were hugged so strongly with each other that terrorists tried but could not separate them. They were taken to the pickup together and they stayed in the captivity all the time together until Ramon was released. She was released on 28th of November. Actually, she did not want to go without Yogev, but Hamas said that whether you will go nicely or we will just drag you. So she has no choice. When she back home, she's a quite young woman, 36 years old. Yogev is 34. She lost 20 pounds after 50 days. So you can imagine what happened with people now after almost 100 days. She hugged her mom and her dog, but directly after it she took the picture of Yogev, kissed it and put it on the wall, and she said it's not possible to continue the life without Yogev. And she's still recovering. She can't see herself. And Yogev's family does not have day-to-day routine. They cannot sleep, they cannot eat. It's like nightmare every day.
My name is Moshe Leinberg. My wife is Gabriela Leinberg. My daughter is Mia Leinberg. On the 6th of October last year, they went to an event. My wife's niece's daughter celebrated her second birthday in Beersheba. And that evening, instead of coming home, they decided to go with my sister-in-law and my sister-in-law's life partner and my brother-in-law to my sister-in-law's kibbutz, which is about 4 kilometers from Gaza, kibbutz near Yitzhak. And the next morning was when the intruders arrived, armed. They broke into the house. They forced open the door to the safe room. They fired bullets into the safe room door and into the safe room. My brother-in-law felt the heat of the bullet graze his arm. They were forcibly removed under horrifying conditions from the safe room, from the house. My wife and daughter were put in the back of a pickup truck and driven out of the kibbutz by a driver who was high on drugs. He passed very closely by some burning cars. They could feel the heat. They went outside of the kibbutz. There's security camera footage of them being, my daughter and my wife being taken out of the kibbutz. What we didn't know until later was that the driver pulled out of the kibbutz, made a left, and rode along the fence, the external fence of the kibbutz. My sister-in-law's house is not far from that fence, and that's where they picked up the remaining three, my sister-in-law Clara, my sister-in-law's life partner Luis, who's 70, and my brother-in-law Fernando, who just turned 61 2 days ago. And they drove them into Gaza. They marched them through a tunnel. They came out of the tunnel, and from there they were taken to their destination where they were held. My wife and daughter and sister-in-law were released on day 53. We were all greatly surprised to see that my daughter had taken the dog with her. And she came out with the dog. I would assume that most, if not all of you, have seen those pictures and clips. They came home, but there's still a part of them there. They're not the same, and they never will be. My brother-in-law, Fernando, and my sister-in-law's life partner, Luis, they're still there. All we know is that initially they were told that they would all be released together, and then at the last second, they separated the women and took them out. We don't know what condition they're in since then. It's been 44 days. They desperately need help. They need to be released. Luis is not a well man. He needs his medications. Fernando has been losing weight. And just a couple of words about both of them. Fernando is a bachelor, but he loves his three nieces dearly, and he's always there for everybody, for his friends, for his family. We had a little bit of an incident years ago. My wife had a visitor who came from Argentina, and they drove down to the Dead Sea. I don't drive. And my wife dehydrated, and she had to be taken to the hospital, and the car was left there. My brother-in-law, without saying a word, told his boss in the middle of a work day, I have to go. Got into his car. He lives in the Kfar Saba area, which is the center of Israel. He drove up to Jerusalem. He parked his car in front of our house, took a bus to the Jerusalem Central Bus Station, took another inner-city bus from there, rode down to the Dead Sea, about a 2.5 hour ride. He got into our car and brought it back without saying anything. This is the kind of person Fernando is. He's kind, he's generous. Everybody that knows him loves him. He likes to travel. He's not a violent person. He's just the opposite. And Luis, he's 70 years old. He has 4 children from his first marriage. He has 10 grandchildren. They all love and miss him. He's always there. He loves to dance. He's a very cheerful person. And these are the people that were just taken. These are the people that are the most peaceful, loving people, kind people you'd ever care to meet. And you can hear from the rest of the stories from the other family members that it's the same thing with their family members. There's absolutely no reason for what happened. This was completely random, and the scary thing about it is it can happen anywhere else in the world at any time under slightly different circumstances. So we need the world not to forget that these people are still there. This is still a humanitarian crisis. So whoever can help, we need your help. Thank you.
Now I invite Danny Mihan. On his request, I will translate his words to English. Every word.
לפני שאני מתחיל, אני רוצה להגיד לכם שלזקנים נותנים לדבר בסוף.
Before I start, I just want to say that the old people get to talk last.
ונתחיל.
I'll start.
מדי לילה, כשאנחנו הולכים לישון, אף אחד לא יודע איזה השכמה תהיה לו.
Every night when we go to sleep, no one knows how he will waken up.
זה מה שהיה לי ב7 באוקטובר בבוקר.
That's what happened to me on October 7th morning.
ההפתעה הכי קשה והכי טראומטית הייתה ב7 לחודש.
The worst surprise, the trauma, was on October 7th.
הפעלתי את הטלוויזיה בבית בסביבות השעה 6:40.
I turned on the TV set in my home at around 6:40.
והיה צבע אדום ברצועת עזה, בעוטף עזה.
And there was red alerts, sirens in the communities close in the south part of Israel next to the Gaza Strip.
אנחנו אומרים עוטף עזה, אבל זה לא עוטף עזה, זה עוטף ישראל. כי היישובים האלה בעצם הגנו על כל ישראל.
The Hebrew term for those communities are Otef Aza, which means Aza's envelope. But it's actually those communities are the ones defending Israel.
ואז ראיתי שיש צבע אדום, והבן שלי גר בנחל עוז, אני גר ביסוד המעלה, בצד השני של המדינה, מרחק 4.5-5 שעות נסיעה.
And then I heard that there was a red alert, the sirens. My son lives in Nahal Oz, which is a kibbutz in the south, and Danny lives in Yesod Amala, which is a kibbutz in the north part of Israel. Moshava, which is a community in the north part of Israel. It's around 4.5-5 hours drive from one another.
שמעתי שיש צבע אדום, טלפנתי לבן שלי.
I heard that there was a red alert siren, and I called my son.
כמו כל פעם, שאלתי אותו מה קורה, לכן אני שומע שיש צבע אדום.
And I asked him, as I do every time, what's going on? I heard that there is a red alert siren.
ואז הוא אומר לי, כלום לא קרה, מה אתה מתרגש? כל פעם אתה מתרגש מכמה טילים שיורדים פה.
He said, nothing happened. You're always getting very excited about some rockets that are being fired here.
סגרנו טלפונים, והכל בסדר כביכול.
He hanged up, and apparently everything was okay.
אני ממשיך להסתכל בטלוויזיה, ורואה שהמחבלים חודרים לכל הקיבוצים בסביבה, והורגים כל מה שנקרא על דרכם.
I continue watching TV, and I see that the terrorists are infiltrating all the communities, the kibbutzim in this area, and they are killing and murdering everything they see, everyone they see.
ילדים, נשים, זקנים, סבים, סבתות, בעלי החיים, הכל להרוג.
Children, women, men, the elderly, grandparents, animals, everything, just to kill.
ואז אני שוב מתקשר לעומרי, ואומר לו, עומרי, מה קורה? והוא אומר לי, הכנסתי את האישה ואת הילדות לממ"ד, יצאתי לקחת 2 סכיני מטבח, שיהיה לי משהו בידיים.
And I called my son Omri again, and I asked him what's going on, and he said, I just put my wife and my daughters in the safe room, and I went to the kitchen to get 2 knives, so I have something to defend myself with.
ואז הוא אומר לי, אבא, אל תטלפן יותר, אנחנו נתכתב בוואטסאפ, כי יש שקט שלא ישמעו אותנו דרך החלון.
And he then told me, don't call me again, because we want to keep the house quiet. Just text me on the WhatsApp, so no one will hear the phone calls.
ב-10:20 קיבלתי ממנו את ההודעה האחרונה שהם עדיין בממ"ד.
10:20 a.m. I received the last message from him that they are still in the safe room.
להודעה הבאה שלי כבר לא קיבלתי תשובה.
My next message did not get a reply.
מה הייתם חושבים במקומי?
What would you have thought in my place?
מישהו יכול להגיד, לתאר?
Can someone imagine or say anything?
אז אני אספר לכם.
So I'll tell you.
באותו רגע חשבתי שהרגו לי את הילד, את הנכדות ואת אשתו.
At that moment, I thought that they killed my son, my granddaughters, and the wife, my daughter-in-law.
וככה ישבתי משעה 11 עד שעה 6:30, כאשר האימא של אשתו התקשרה אליי. היא גרה בסדרות שגם שם מסתובבים מחבלים ויורים. היא התקשרה והודיעה לי שעומרי נחטף ולישי והבנות בסדר.
And that's how I felt until 6 p.m. when my in-laws, my daughter-in-law's mother called me and told me that Omri was kidnapped and that my daughter-in-law and my granddaughters are okay.
זה אחת ההודעות המשמחות ביותר שהיו לי בחיים.
This is one of the happiest announcements I received in my life.
מצד אחד, חטפו את הבן שלי לעזה, זה דקירת סכין בלב.
On one side, my son was kidnapped to Gaza. It's like getting your heart stabbed by a knife.
אבל כולי תקווה שהוא נלקח שלם, חי ובריא, ויחזור חי שלם ובריא.
But I'm hopeful that he was taken alive and well, and he will come back alive and well.
מאידך הרווחתי את הנכדות שלי ואת הכלה החמודה.
On the other hand, my granddaughters and my daughter-in-law were saved.
וכל הזמן חשבתי, פינו אותה, אבל איך היא תתמודד בטראומה שהיא עברה. חטפו את בעלה לנגד עיניה, וללכת עם שתי ילדות, אחת בת 6 חודשים, והשנייה בת 2 וחודשיים.
I always thought that they were evacuated, and my daughter-in-law, how would she cope after she saw her husband being kidnapped, and she's with 2 daughters. One of them is 6 months old, and the other one is 2 years old.
ביום ראשון ירדתי לעזור לה. היא צריכה שמישהו יחתל את הילדה הקטנה ולשחק עם הגדולה קצת ולהרגיע אותם בעין אבא.
On Sunday, I went to the south to help them, and she needed someone to help change the diaper of the baby and play with the toddler when their father is away.
ההורים שלה הצליחו לברוח ביום שלישי מסדרות.
Her parents escaped the city of Sderot on Tuesday.
אבל ביום שני ישבתי איתה ואמרתי לה שהקטע הזה בין החטיפה לרגע הזה אני לא יודע מה קרה. שהיא תשלים לי את התמונה פשוט.
And then I told her, I really don't know what happened since he was kidnapped till this moment, if she can tell me what happened.
ואז היא מספרת לי שבסביבות שעה 11 הגיעו 5 מחבלים עם ילד בן 17 שחטפו אותו מההורים שלו, תומר, ותומר אמר לו, עומרי, אני מבקש שתפתח את הדלת, אם לא, הם הורגים אותי.
And she told me that around 11 o'clock, 5 terrorists arrived at their home with a 17-year-old boy, teenager, that was kidnapped as well, Tomer. And this 17-year-old teenager told Omri, I'm asking you to open the door because if you don't, they will kill me.
עומרי פתח את הדלת ולקחו את כל המשפחה שלו אל השכן צחי
Omri opened the door, and the entire family was taken to the next door neighbor, Tzachi.
מה שאשתו והילדות שלו ראו שם, את הילדה בת ה-18 של צחי, ירויה שוכבת על הרצפה ומדממת.
What my daughter-in-law and the kids saw there, the next door neighbor, is their 18-year-old daughter that was shot and she was bleeding on the floor.
הושיבו את שתי המשפחות על הרצפה.
They ordered both families to sit on the floor.
הגברים היו עם טריקו ותחתונים יחפים.
The men were with t-shirts and underwear, barefoot.
סליחה אם אני יורד לרזולוציות כאלה, אבל זה כל כך חשוב להגיד אותם.
I'm sorry that I'm taking this time to go into all those details, but it's very important for me to tell them.
ואנשים היו עם פיג'מות ויחפות.
And the women were with pajamas and barefoot.
ב-1:30 אמרו לו לבנים, לגברים, אתם באים איתנו או שאנחנו הורגים את כולם?
At 1:30 they told the men, you're either coming with us or we are killing all of you.
הגברים קמו ללכת איתם.
The men they stood up to go with them.
הילדה בת 2.5 רצה אחרי אבא שלה וצעקה, אבא, אבא, אבא שלי, אבא שלי.
And the 2.5-year-old granddaughter ran after her father and screamed, Father, Father, my father, my father.
האמא שלה החזיקה אותה ואמרה לה, עמרי, אני אוהבת אותך, אל תהיה גיבור, שמור על עצמך.
Her mother held her and told Omri, don't be a hero, take care of yourself.
ומאז אנחנו לא יודעים מה קרה עם עמרי. ואם אתם רואים אותי שאני הורדתי את כל הבגדים במקום הזה, הנמוך, ואני גם מגדל זקן מאותו יום, כי הבן שלי בטוח שהוא לא יתרחץ, בטוח שהוא לא יתגלע, ובטוח שיקר לו. אז אני הורדתי את כל הבגדים להזדהות.
Now, you see me, I took off all my clothes and I'm growing a beard since that day because I know that my son is not bathing, is in tough conditions, and I'm trying to feel what.
אני חייב לציין שלבן שלי יש גם אזרחות נוספת, הונגרית, ואנחנו משתדלים גם במישור הזה לפעול שההונגרים, והם באמת עושים מאמצים לשחרר אותו ואת כל הנעדרים.
I want to mention that my son, as a second nationality, is also Hungarian, and we're working with the Hungarian government, and they are making an effort to release him along with all the other hostages.
ואם אני עומד במעמד כזה, שבאמת יש כל כך הרבה עיתונאים שאני יכול להגיד, ושוב, אני תמיד שואל שאלות את עצמי, אבל אני אגיד אותם בקול רם.
And in this situation where there are so many journalists, and I always ask myself questions, but I'll ask them out loud.
האם מישהו, מדינה מסוימת, ממשלה מסוימת, הייתה שותקת, עוברת לסדר היום, אחרי הפגזות כאלה במשך שנים ללא הפסקה?
Would anyone, would any country in the world would have done nothing and continue with its lives after those bombing for years and years non-stop?
ואם אנחנו כבר מדברים, בטוח שלרבים מכם יש כלבים, חתולים, אולי תוכים, ציפורים. כאשר חתולה ממליטה או כלבה או זאבה ביער, מישהו יכול להתקרב לגורים שלה?
I'm sure that many of you have animals, dogs, cats, parrots, birds. When a cat or a wolf in the woods give birth to its babies, can anyone get close to her puppies or the kittens?
ופה לקחו את הגור שלי.
They took my puppy.
והדבר דומה בעיניי, בכל אופן שאני מתעסק יותר עם החי, הצומח, לזאבה שהמליטה ביער, נמרה שהמליטה ביער.
And it's similar, since I work with animals and plants, this reminds me of a leopard that gave birth in the woods.
ומגיע זאב לחטוף את אחד מגוריה.
And a wolf comes trying to snatch one of their puppies, one of the siblings.
הנמרה מתנפלת על הזאב ומרסקת אותו.
The leopard will jump on the wolf and crash it.
ואז כל חיות היער באות להגיד לנמרה מה עשית.
And the result is the rest of the animals in this woods will come with complaints to the leopard and ask, what have you done?
וזה מה שקורה לנו היום.
And that's what happened to us today.
לקחו את הגורים שלנו
They took us to our
ואנחנו
puppies,
נאבקים על הגורים שלנו.
and we are fighting for the lives of our puppies.
עוד משהו, הייתם צריכים לשאול אותי שאלה.
There's another thing. You should have asked me a question.
יושבים פה הרבה אנשים חכמים.
There are many smart people here.
הרי אמרתי בתחילת דבריי שראיתי שהחמאסניקים הורגים כל דבר שבא דרכם.
I said in the beginning of my presentation that I saw that Hamas terrorists are killing everything and everyone they see.
אני אשאל במקומכם,
I'll ask it for you.
למה לא הרגו את כלתי ואת הילדים שלה?
Why didn't they kill my daughter-in-law and her kids?
למישהו יש תשובה?
Does anyone have an answer for that?
מוחמד, אולי לך? שפט מוחמד. אולי הוא יודע?
Maybe you know?
לא. אז אני אגיד לכם.
So I'll tell you.
באמנה של חמאס כתוב, סעיף אחד, להרוג כל יהודי באשר הוא יהודי. ילד, אישה, זקנה, זקן, בעלי חיים, להרוג כל דבר ולסוף כל דבר.
In Hamas convention, the first article states that you have to kill every Jew, whether it's a child, a man, a woman, a baby, anything, burn and kill anyone.
אבל בקוראן שאני מכבד אותו ומוקיר אותו,
But in the Quran, which I know and respect,
הנביא ציווה, הנביא מוחמד
the Prophet Muhammad ordered,
ציווה, כי תצא למלחמה,
when you go to a war,
לא תגדע עץ,
you wouldn't cut down a tree,
לא תהרוג אישה,
you wouldn't kill a woman,
לא תהרוג ילד קטן,
you wouldn't kill a baby,
לא נער,
not a teenager,
לא זקנה,
not an elderly,
לא זקן
not an elderly woman or
ולא
a
חולה.
man. Or
ואם תרצו, אני יכול לקרוא את זה מהקוראן, יש לי את זה בכיס.
if
אני
you
יכול
want me,
לקרוא
I
את זה
can read
בערבית.
it to you from the Quran itself. I have it right here with me.
תבדקו אותי ותראו שאכן כך. הקוראן הוא רחום, וזו לא דרכה של האסלאם, זה דרכו של חמאס, של דאעש, שרק כל דבר, ערף ראשים, ואנחנו שכחנו מזה. עם זה אנחנו מתמודדים עכשיו.
This is not the way of Islam. This is the way of Hamas, of ISIS. ISIS that chopped off heads of people that were alive. This is what we are facing today.
אני גר בגליל,
I live in the Galilee.
ובגליל יש הרבה יישובים ערביים,
There are many Arab communities in the Galilee.
והמון שנים עבדתי עם ערבים בשותפות, גידלנו דברים בשותפות, היינו בהרמוניה.
And for many years I worked with my Arab neighbors. We worked together. We lived in harmony.
וזה אני שואל מבית אבא שלי, סבא שלי.
And now this is part of the tradition from my father's and my grandfather's home.
הסבא שלי בעיראק גידל תמרים בשותפות עם ערבים.
My grandfather in Iraq grew dates with an Arab partner.
כאשר עזבנו את העיירה שלנו, הערבים בחוץ.
When we left our city,
מהפגע.
our Arab neighbors cried from us living.
לכן יש את כל הערכה לעם המוסלמי הערבי, אבל כשקמים גופי טרור כאלה, חמאס, דאעש, ג'יהאד כזה או אחר, זה נגד האנושות, נגד כל אחד מאיתנו.
And all the admiration to the Arab and Muslim population, but when those kind of this kind of terror organization, like Hamas, are raising, this is what we have to fight.
ותודה רבה לכם שבאתם להביא את הדברים שלנו לעולם.
And thank you all for coming here and bringing our word to the world. Thank you, Danny. And now I call on Ayala Luzon Yalomi. Ayala.
I'm Ayala Yalomi Luzon, and I'm lots of things. I'm a wife of my beloved husband. I'm a mother of a 2-year-old kid, very cute. I'm a daughter of my loved mother. But since the 7th of October, I'm only and just the sister of Ohad Yalomi. My brother Ohad is kept in Gaza for almost 100 days. And I'm here to tell his and his family's story. On the 7th of October, Yalomi family heard sirens and lots of missiles going up to their house on Kibbutz Nir Oz. Unfortunately, they are used to get into the safe room at that time. They got into the safe room, and for a few hours, they understood that something else is happening. In the meantime, they started to hear Arabic outside, calling Allah Akbar et Bachir El Yahud. At that time, my brother decided to go outside of the safe room and to protect his family from the outside. He was so afraid for them. In the meantime, 4 terrorists broke into his house and shot him on the limbs. After they shot him, they opened the safe room and get inside and saw there his wife, Batsheva, and their 3 children. For a few minutes, they were talking, and Batsheva asked Ohad from the outside what they want. He said that they want to take them to Gaza. The 4 terrorists took Batsheva, Eitan, which is 12 years old, Yael, which is 10 years old, and a baby only 1 year and 8 months old, outside of the safe room, while they are putting the guns on them to come with them to Gaza. When the family go outside, they saw Ohad on the floor, bleeding, very painful. It was very, very painful, but he was unconscious. And he got the chance to tell them that he loves them, and please do whatever they told you to do. Go with them to Gaza. That was the last eye contact that Ohad had with his family. At that time, Batsheva with her 2 daughters, the terrorists took Batsheva and the 2 daughters on one motorcycle, and they tied the 12-year-old boy on another one. They started driving in Kibbutz Nir Oz for a very long minutes. They saw lots of bodies. They saw houses are burning. They saw catastrophe. Kibbutz Nir Oz is only 2 kilometers from Gaza Strip. They drove really fast. 200 meters from the strip, there were coming 2 tanks of the IDF that actually made the motorcycle of Batsheva and her 2 daughters to fall down. That was the time that Batsheva saw, for the last time on this period, her son. Her son got into Gaza Strip on a motorcycle. Around him, terrorists. And she saw a windows of opportunities to escape with the 2 small girls. That was her choice. She had to make a choice. And she managed to escape with a pajama, with no shoes. 3.5 hours she ran in the fields back to Nir Oz with a baby on her hands and 10 years old daughter next side to her. After 3.5 hours, she got to the main road of the kibbutz. At that time, fortunately, the first bus of soldiers came, and they took her on the bus to a safe place. At that time, she's calling me. After I didn't get any sign of my family, of my brother's family, I got the sign. Batsheva called me and told me what happened. That Eitan was kidnapped and Ohad is injured and maybe worse than that. And from that moment, I'm trying to get people to come to the house to see what's about Ohad. To see if he surely needs help. At the evening, the forces came and Ohad wasn't there. In a few days, we got the message that Ohad was kidnapped. Ohad doesn't know. Sorry. After 52 days on the negotiation that got the agreement, at the 4th time of the agreement, Eitan came back to us. You can just imagine how we were thrilled about it, but this was for a few days only, because we understand that it's really, really difficult. It's really, really... We're waiting for Ohad to come back. And what breaks my heart, that Ohad doesn't know that his family is safe here in Israel, and he's over there in the tunnels, probably hungry, because all the witnesses says that there is no food. The coming back also lose weight, so probably my brother also. He's cold because he was with a boxer and a short shirt. And I don't know what else. I just know that I want to get back to my other life. I want to get to be so many things except being the young sister of Ohad. And this will be in just one way. Just bring him and all the hostages back home now. And my wish is actually to get to the 8th of October, because this is a very long day. Thank you.
Before we continue, Yuval had another thing he wanted to share with us.
I have something else to add. Today, South Africa accused Israel of a genocide. I want to show you how genocide looked like. Okay? This is my little sister's house. My sisters and 3 daughters and her husband were in the house while these unhuman terrorists set up the house. This was a method in Kibbutz Nir Oz. Many died like this. Many suffocated or burned alive. Last time we were burned alive, it was because we are Jews in Europe. This time we got burned alive because we are Israelis. So this is genocide, okay?
Thank you. Thank you all. We have time for a few questions. If you have any, please raise your hand. Yes, go ahead. We have the microphone right here.
Thank you very much, and thank you for speaking to us and coming here. And I can't imagine the courage it takes and the composure to be able to speak to us. And we can't imagine what you're going through. Yuval spoke very eloquently about what South Africa is doing today. Can I ask any of the others how you feel seeing your own government in the World Court being charged with genocide over what's happening in Gaza?
מה זה רצח עם?
What's a genocide?
אני סיפרתי לכם על הנמרה והזאב.
I told you about the leopard and the wolf.
ואנחנו די חזקים במזרח התיכון. אנחנו נחשבים מעצמה גדולה. ויש לנו את הכוח לעמוד בכל התלאות. ומגיע ארגון קיקיוני של 30,000 חיילים להילחם בצבא אדיר כזה. מה רציתם שנעשה לו? נגיד לו, כנס? כמה פעמים הם יכולים להטריד אותנו בהפגזות, בהפצצות, בשריפת שדות שלנו, יערות, עצים שאנחנו נוטעים על מנת להוריק את העולם, לפזר חמצן קצת יותר בעולם, והם שורפים. אני אשאל עוד כמה דברים.
So I'll try to translate what it says. Israel is a power in the Middle East. We have a strong army and we can defend ourselves. There comes a terror organization, small one, 30,000 terrorists, and try to attack us. What do you think we would do? Just tell him, come in, kill us, continue to bomb us, to burn our fields and our forests? And I'll ask a few more questions.
להזכיר לכם,
I want to remind you,
את המדינה שלנו אנחנו הקמנו על האפר של השואה לפני 75 שנה.
we have established our country, the ashes of the Holocaust 75 years ago.
והקמנו מדינה לתפארת של כל העמים.
And we have established a country, a state that is the proud of all nations.
אתם יודעים מה קורה אצל השכנים שלנו?
You know what happens with our neighbors.
בעזה הם הקימו מדינה מתחת לקרקע.
In Gaza, they created a state underground.
של מנהרות,
Tunnels,
תחמושת, נשק,
ammunition, arms,
במקום להשקיע בעם שלהם.
instead of investing in their own
כל
people.
התרומות שהם קיבלו מכל העולם הושקע מתחת לקרקע, לא מעל לקרקע.
All the donation that they received from around the world was invested in the underground and not over the ground.
מה שהם עשו לעם שלהם זה הרג עם והרס עם.
What they have done to their own people is a genocide and the destruction of their own people.
ישראל היום מונה 10 מיליון תושבים.
In Israel today there are about 10 million inhabitants.
2 מיליון מוסלמים
2 million,
שחיים באושר ובאושר בישראל.
2 million of them are Muslims that live.
אין אחד מהם שמוכן לחיות במדינה מוסלמית אחרת. גם אם נשלם לכל אחד למכור את הבית, ניתן לו 10 מיליון דולר, הוא לא עוזב את ישראל, כי טוב לו בישראל.
None of them want to live in an Arab or Muslim country. Even if we'll offer them millions of dollars, they won't live to another country.
זה
They want to live in
נקרא,
Israel.
זה נקרא ג'נוסייד.
Is this what you call a genocide?
יתרה מכך, אמרתי שאנחנו 8 מיליון יהודים.
Moreover, I just said that we are about 8 million Jews.
אתם יודעים כמה פרסי נובל המדינה הזאת הביאה לעולם לכל אחד מכם?
Know how many Nobel Prizes Israel received?
מישהו מכם עבר צנתור?
Okay. Did anyone here have an angioplastic surgery?
יש כאלה פה?
Anyone?
אם אתם לא, אני כן.
I did. I was.
והסטנט שיש לי פה, ולכל מנותחי הלב בעולם, זה המצאה ישראלית.
This operation based on an Israeli invasion.
כולכם נוהגים, משתמשים בווייז, המצאה ישראלית.
All of you, when you drive and you use the Waze or GPS, this is an Israeli innovation.
לכל אחד מכם יש דיסק-און-קי, המצאה ישראלית.
Pen drive or disc on key is an Israeli innovation.
היום אתם אוכלים עגבניות שרי, המצאה ישראלית.
Even the cherry tomato is an Israeli innovation.
כל העולם הנשל מבחינה חקלאית על מנת לצמצם את המים משתמש בטפטפות, המצאה ישראלית.
Entire third world that's in order to use less water is using drip irrigation, which is also an Israeli invention.
אני הגעתי פליט בן 5.5 במדינת ישראל.
I arrived in Israel as a refugee at the age of 5 years old.
מדינת ישראל, זאת אומרת, אני הגעתי פליט בעצם,
I was actually a
כמו הרבה
refugee
אחרים.
like many other Israelis.
וכולם קיבלו חינוך,
And all of them received
נבנו
education,
בתים, נבנו בתי ספר, אוניברסיטאות,
schools, universities.
כל המעבדות, מכון ויצמן שתורם לכל העולם. מה קורה בארצות ערב? שאלתם את עצמכם פעם?
What's the reality in the Arab world? Did you ever stop
And-
and ask yourself?
תבדקו אותי. הן נוטלות רצח, מלחמות, פיצוצים, טרור, זה מה שיש במדינות האלה. מה אתם רוצים איתנו עכשיו?
You see murder, violence, terrorism. This is the reality in those countries. Why I don't understand what they want of us now.
תחשבו.
Just think about it.
אני עוד... תחשבו. תנסו ואתם, סליחה, מסקרים את כל האירועים בעולם.
When you look at everything that happened around the world,
תגידו לי אירוע אחד, אחרי שבאנגליה נגמרו הפיצוצים עם הסקוטים וזהו, שזה לא מוסלמי, שזה לא ערבי, שזה לא טרוריסטי. אתם
show
יכולים
me
להגיד?
one place around the world that terrorism is not related to Muslims.
העולם צריך לקום ולהיאבק בטרוריזם הזה. אנחנו עושים את העבודה במקום העולם. תודה רבה.
The world should fight this kind of terrorism, and we are doing this job for the world. Any other question?
I have one question for you, if I may.
Yes.
Yeah, because tomorrow, of course, is the legal proceedings will recommence, and it's Israel's turn. Why did you go in the first place if you say that it's baseless and shameful the accusations made by South Africa?
First of all, because we have to defend ourselves. We consider the ICJ with great respect. We are confident that the ICJ will decide, see the real reality that's going on. And I think that I may add, after we heard all of the family members of the hostages, after more than 3 hours that we sat today in the court, hearing those false accusations, and sometimes even lies, there was not even one word said about their family members. Not even one. They talked in a brief sentence about the October 7 massacre. They carried on to talk about Israel. They talked about the suffering in Gaza. And they never stopped to mention, even in one word, that there are 136 Israelis that are still held captive in Gaza by terrorists. This is a humanitarian catastrophe, almost 100 days. This is a war crime and a crime against humanity. And it should be mentioned. And this is when we say that South Africa is becoming the legal arm of the terror organization Hamas. This is exactly for that. They are representing a terror organization and asking for this court to give the terror organization exactly what they want. A ceasefire. Now, without the release of the hostages, without returning the family members of the people who are standing with me here. Because when you ask for a ceasefire, you are taking us all back to October 6th. October 6th was a ceasefire. It was a peaceful day in the south of Israel. We had no idea what we were expected to see the next day. If we call on a ceasefire today, we will continue to live on October 6th until the next October 7th. Because Hamas leadership has stated publicly that their goal is to repeat the October 7 massacre over and over and over again. This is actually by calling for a ceasefire now what you're asking. You want to give Hamas the opportunity to kill more Jews and more Jews and more Jews. The only solution should be the elimination of Hamas from the Gaza Strip, the return of each and every one of the hostages, and a change of the reality in the Gaza Strip so it will never be a threat to Israelis in the future. I think the microphone just went dead. We have time for one last question. Yes, go ahead. Can anyone see if this microphone works? Yes. Thank you.
You just brought up the issue also of a ceasefire. Now, some of the relatives also of the people who have been taken hostage were actually in favor of a ceasefire because it might be helpful for the release of the hostages. Could I ask the relatives of the hostages what they think of this ceasefire? Would it not be helpful also to them?
Michael.
We're in favor of everything that can bring them back. We are in favor of everything that can bring them back, but the reality...
Can you get the second microphone? Go ahead, speak with them.
But the reality is that without putting the pressure on Hamas, they will not release anyone. So we ask the world, the media, and everyone in the world to put more pressure on Hamas and Qatar and help to release our loved ones. And then we all can live in peace. And maybe we all have a better future.
Thank you, Michael. And I want to thank again the family members. I know it's hard for you to tell your story again and again. And I think everyone here join me in the prayer that we all be together with your family members as soon as possible. Thank you all for coming, and good night.
Yeah. Try and get Yval.
Yeah.
Yeah? Yeah.